Welcome on to the show tonight, guys. This is Studio 321. This is your podcast host, Eddie B, coming at you from the 321. So how's it going, guys? I'm sorry I haven't been with you for a few days. I've been super busy. I've been running around. Some of my business stuff has been going nuts. I've been trying to get back on the mic. It's just been really tough this week, but I'm back, and something I wanted to go over with you tonight. So I got in a little bit of a heated conversation with one of my liberal friends the other day, and we were talking about, taxes and this and that, and he was shooting, the Republicans, shooting at the Republicans, and I was kind of shooting back at the Democrats, and so we're going at it. But anyway, so we started talking about taxes, and he's like, well, you got to tax the rich, and the corporations don't pay their fair share. And I happen to know some about this, so I said, okay, well, let's take that. So we had a conversation, and I broke the whole thing down for him, why corporations get tax breaks the way they do. And to be honest with you, at the end of the conversation, he saw my point and kind of agreed with me. So, but anyways, maybe we just won one more over. But so anyways, I figured I'd do the show on that tonight, guys. I'm going to break this down for you, for those of you who might not understand why corporations get the tax breaks that they do. So anyways, so I don't know if you guys remember, this was a few years back when AOC I think she got in a bunch of heat for turning down Amazon for coming into her district in New York. They wanted to build a plant, a distribution plant, I think it's like the Brooklyn area or wherever she's from. And, so she made politics out of it, of course, and blamed them for being the bad guy and said they don't pay enough and this and that, and basically made it such an unfriendly environment. There was a bunch of protesters out saying we don't want Amazon, blah, blah, blah. Made it so unfriendly that Amazon finally said, okay, fine, we'll go somewhere else. Now, if you're a liberal activist with no brain, you might cheer that and think, yay, you just ran off the bad guy. But here's the way that this actually works, and this is why I wanted to do this show, because a lot of people just don't understand how this works. Okay, example, an Amazon distribution center has about 1,000 full-time employees, okay? Now you might say, well, that's not that much. However, in that type of business, every line job is what they call it, person that works on the line, whether it's an automobile assembly line or in Amazon, they have support jobs, okay? Now, in the automotive industry, they say for every assembly line job, it creates 7 support jobs, okay? So in other words, if a factory had 5,000 full-time employees, with all the support jobs along with that, you're talking about almost 30,000 employees for the area, restaurants, delivery people, whatever, bakeries, coffee shops, bars, everything, what it does to the community. So with the Amazon, we're going to say that was going to create about 10,000 total jobs, we'll say, everything, around businesses around Amazon, everything like that. So basically what AOC did was run off about 10,000 new jobs to the area. Now, her argument was that, Amazon doesn't pay enough and they overwork their people and this and that. And look, that might be true. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole separate argument to have. But you got to let people make that choice for themselves. The job has to be available for them to be able to make that choice, first of all. Okay? You run them out of town, they don't get the chance. But anyway, so coming into the area they were trying to come into, like I said, she just made it so unfriendly that they just basically pulled their permits and said, nah, we're just going to go somewhere else. But here's the way it goes. So let's say, for example, Toyota was going to build a assembly line factory somewhere, and they were kind of trying to pick between 2 states. So let's say it's Missouri and Tennessee, right? Now, this is all fictitious, but this is just an example. So Missouri and Tennessee, first of all, Toyota would have looked at their taxes, what is their corporate tax in those states, somebody that's good for their business to come into, right? That'd be number one. So, so we got Missouri and we got Tennessee. Well, they're going to go to the governor of each state and they're going to say, hey, we're thinking about bringing Toyota to your state. It's going to bring 5,000 line jobs, which is going to create 30,000 total jobs. So what can your state do for us? And then Toyota's going to sit back and wait. Well, Missouri might say, well, we'll give you, we can't give you this tax break, but we'll give you some tax incentives, and we can do this, this, and this, and this for you. And then, Tennessee will come along and say, well, they're going to give you this, but we'll give you this, 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 and this tax break. So then, of course, Toyota is going to play them against each other. And they'll go, well, I kind of like Missouri better, so we're going to go ahead and take Missouri. So, they're scoping out the state of Missouri, and then they find, let's say, a couple towns that are kind of little tiny podunk towns somewhere, and they go to that mayor and they say, hey, look, we're going to build a Toyota plant in your town. What are you going to do for us? Well, the mayor, wants it in there, because think about this, right? You go from a town of 10,000 people, little tiny town in the middle of nowhere, to getting a Toyota plant. Immediately, your population goes up to 30, 40,000. Immediately, you've got restaurants coming in, you've got dentists, you've got doctors, you've got bakeries, coffee shops, hotels, this, that, the other, right? Delivery services, boom, boom, boom. It makes that mayor look like a hero, because now he's the greatest mayor ever. His bottom line just went way up. His tax revenue just went way up. Everything's great. They're building houses in town. They need more everything, more restaurants. It's just bringing the entire area up, right? So that mayor knows, I need Toyota in my town. But maybe the other town's trying to get him too. So the mayor gets together with the governor and goes, hey, man, we just happen to have 50 acres over here that we ain't doing nothing with, and we'd love you to build your Toyota plant on this 50 acres. So Toyota goes, okay, well, either we want that land for free, or you're going to have to give it to us at a discounted rate. Also, we're going to need road improvements, because our roads are going to have to be widened into town so that we can get our deliveries in there. I mean, this isn't a town set up for this type of business, right? So there's a lot of back and forth. But the point is, okay, when Toyota or Amazon or whoever comes to your town, it's like winning the lottery. You want them there. The mayors want them there. The governor wants them there. The city council, everybody wants them in this area, because it's going to blow that area up. And it's a fact. You see it happen all the time. Okay? So they basically fight over getting these big corporations to come to their area. So a lot of times they have to bend over backwards. They have to give them basically major tax breaks. Major breaks on all kinds of employment laws and everything, right? So let's say that Toyota makes a deal and they build in this Missouri town or whatever, right? And the town's booming, it grows everything up. They've been in business there 10 years. Everybody's loving it now. Because now you got to think about something. Not only does it employ 30,000 people now, but the actual people who work for Toyota itself, the 5,000 people, they can now get group health care, which they could never get before, group dental. I mean, they get 401k, retirement. They get so much stuff that you could have never gotten before working for mom and pop, right? So you've just really put 5,000 people on the map, and their families, and it just trickles on down the line, man. It helps everybody. So they're all loving it, right? This town is booming. They're loving Toyota. 10 years goes by. Toyota's doing great there. All the people are doing great there. Then the activists get a hold of the paperwork on this, and they go, oh, my God. Toyota doesn't have to pay any taxes to be here. Look at the people that work there for Toyota have to pay more tax than Toyota does. Now, that's not actually true. It might be higher percentage-wise. Let's say Toyota's paying 7%. Let's say it's a 7% corporate tax that they made a deal with to be in that area. Well, and then let's just say the people are paying more of a percentage of their total paychecks or whatever. So then the activists get a hold of that 10 years later, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it, you know. And then they sit there and they complain and they whine and they complain and they use it for politics. But it's not actually real, because also you have to think about something. Yes, Toyota might get a tax break to open in that particular area. But with all the tax revenue that they bring in from all the people's paychecks, because every individual paycheck has to pay taxes, it's way more money than Toyota would ever pay in taxes itself. You see what I'm saying? So it works out in that way. And it's a city building. It's kind of like a nation building, city building type of idea. That's what you want to come to your town. Now, when AOC ran off Amazon, I just don't think at the time she had the smarts to realize what she was doing. Trying to be Mrs. Oh, I'm fighting the big guy. I'm fighting the big guy. No, you just ran off a great company. Again, you know, might have some problems. Maybe they don't pay enough. Maybe they're too strict. I don't know. You know, you hear those kind of rumors about Amazon, but I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not. But the point is, you got to let people decide that for themselves. You know what I mean? It can create a lot of jobs for people. And then, you know, those people pay taxes. Those people become productive members of society rather than living off half welfare or whatever they're doing. Okay? So you really have to stop and think. When someone comes up to you and goes, oh, yeah, corporations never have to pay their taxes. They find loopholes. The loopholes are there for a reason. They're put there on purpose so that the corporations will come to your town. Okay? Now, I went through a major corporate exit and entrance and in my area, and I know exactly how it is. I've never worked for them, but I saw what it did to the town when they left, and I saw what it did to the town when they came back. I did a podcast on this before. I live in the Central Florida area. You know, that's why we call it Studio 321. But when NASA got closed down by Barack Obama during his second term, you know, we lost 12,000 jobs. Okay. Now, I'm not blaming Obama for anything like that, because it was a bunch of government waste and this and that. And to be honest, in hindsight, to me, that's the only thing Barack Obama ever did that was worth the crap. I got to be honest. But anyways, that's a whole another show. But so when those 12,000 jobs left, it destroyed our area for a long time. For about 6-7 years, man. I mean, people were giving their houses away. And I'm talking about big houses, like $150,000 a year jobs, just getting canceled, people moving out of town, selling their homes. Just some people just walked away from their homes. Like, it was a mess around here for a long time. Hurt every single business from top to bottom, down to the bakeries, the restaurants, the bars. Everything was hurt and slow around this area. Now, so I know what it's like when a corporation isn't in your area. But then when SpaceX, Blue Origin, they came back to this area and refilled it with the private sector jobs and refilled all those 12,000 jobs with all these good paying private sector jobs, it's back up to being great again. You know, you see people out. A lot of people know I'm in the bar business, you know, and I see daily, guys that work out at SpaceX, Blue Origin, all these people, they always come out, they hang out at our bar, they drink a lot, they hang out, they spend money, have a good time. It helps us. And again, it's the trickle down, man. Okay. And a lot of people don't understand that. You can't just demonize the corporations. Now, I'm not saying they're perfect. They're not. They should be regulated. They should be watched, because, you know, corporate greed is a real thing. Okay. But as far as not wanting them to come to an area or something like that, you have to make it enticing for them, because they know that whatever town or city they go to, it's like winning the lottery for that city, man. It is. And they know that, the corporation, so they're kind of in that, hey, what are you going to do for us mode? And I don't blame them. If I held all the cards, if I was going to employ 5,000 to 10,000 people, I'd do the exact same thing. What are you going to do for me? I'm not paying full price for the land. I'm not going to pay full price on the taxes. You're going to have to give me some leeway on regulations, or I'm not coming to your area. You know, and that going to another subject, that's kind of why a lot of businesses have been getting run out of California. As beautiful as that state is, and as weather is perfect, and as big as many people are out there, when big corporations leave and say we can't function there anymore, that tells you something. That's because of regulations. Because a state like Texas or a state like Florida or any of the southern states really is going, hey guys, come on to us. We'll let you have this land for free. We ain't going to tax you. Bring your employees down here. You can build down here. We'll take good care of you. And that's what they want. That's what the corporations want. You know what I mean? They're going to supply great jobs. You know, they want a break. So, yeah, you know, and look, it's just like, you know, another part of this same situation is, you know, oh, we got to tax the rich. The rich don't pay their fair share. Well, look, individual rich people, I understand they should be in a higher tax bracket. No doubt about it. You know what I'm saying? But you got to remember, too, the rich, when they say tax the rich, if you're talking about business owners, are you talking about taxing them personally or taxing their businesses? Because, well, again, it just goes back to the same thing as the corporations. When you overtax a business, all they do is move away because they're not stuck here. They're not stuck anywhere. Really, and that goes back to the international trade thing. Businesses nowadays are so fluid in the way they can go to other countries and stuff. They're not even stuck in our country. They don't need to be here. You know what I mean? If you're going to tax me a 25% corporate tax rate and make me pay all these ridiculous regulation fees and all this stuff, fine. I'll just close up my shop and go open in Thailand. You know what I mean? And ship my goods back into the United States and sell them and make more profit. Now, Trump put the tariffs on to stop all that. But the point I'm trying to make is you can't just hate on these corporations, okay? They are there to make money, but they also do provide a lot of jobs and a lot of good paying jobs, a lot of good health care packages, a lot of good dental stuff, 401ks. You know, that stuff's real, man. You know, you can work for Toyota for 20, 30 years putting bumpers on a car. And at the end of that, retire with a 401k that's fat, man. And you can go sit on your porch and eat chicken all day and love it. You know what I mean? So, look, sometimes you just got to sit and think back, think through the process and try to figure out why things are the way they are. I've never understood why the corporations don't push back on this stuff. Like, people constantly pick on them and they never say, hey, look, man, we're supplying 10,000 jobs. We deserve a break. Because I would. If I owned that company, I'd make commercials about it. But, you know, it is what it is. But anyways, guys, I hope you liked my video. I hope it cleared some things up. Please like and subscribe to my channel, Studio 321. If you hit the subscribe button, it really helps my channel. You know, keeps it going around on YouTube. They're not too friendly to conservative talk. So, you know, subscribe and helps my channel a lot. But anyways, guys, I'll talk to you soon, and I'll be back. I'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks.